Okay, in this how-to video, I'm going to show you how to finely paint patent leather and keep it from cracking. It is one of the most requested things that I've gotten over the last years, and there are sort of an assortment of products that you can use to complete this project. The number one thing that you're going to need if you're going to be painting on the patent leather, which is this part here on this this Jordan, the first thing that you want to understand on this is that the leather preparer and deglazer, no matter how much you rub on this, you won't be able to get down to anything. And so that's to understand that the reasoning behind patent leather. So patent leather, what that means, and this is just an example of sort of what goes behind the schematics of it. It's leather, and then they color this, the green color, which is this, and then once they do that, they apply a clear film, a really thick, pliable plastic, so the color stays protected inside. And what happens is that when you try to paint directly on top of this, this plastic is really, really shiny and smooth that everything just either peels off or cracks off. So if you are wearing your Jordans a lot and you get cracking or tears in this, it's really almost impossible to fix because you've torn this clear coat that is on this that's really a piece of plastic, and the leather is underneath. So no matter how much you acetone and acetone and acetone at this, you will never get to this leather underneath because it's got this big thick plastic on here, and that's what makes it shiny. So what you want to do in the case of that is the product that you're going to want to pick up is this sand-free promotion adhesive, and this is a spray adhesive. It also comes in a pour adhesive. We should have both of those on the website if you need to pick that up from us. And what you're going to do is, on this particular one, the customer is requesting that this stay shiny and that this midsole here be a matte black. So this shiny black and a matte black. So here we have an assortment of products that we're going to be using to create this custom, which is going to have a painted patent leather and a painted midsole. First couple products that you're going to need is obviously some brushes. You're going to need some masking tape to mask off your areas, some cotton balls, Angelus Duller to matte out some of the paint, too thin if you're going to be using it through an airbrush, black leather paint, Angelus Jetblack leather dye, the Professional Leather Preparer and Deglazer by Angelus, the Matte Finisher, and the High Gloss Finisher. We also have the Krylon Crystal Clear and the Matte Crystal Clear over here. And then we also have the Adhesion Promoter here, and then the Meltonian Black color spray. So at this point you're just going to have to decide basically what is the easiest way for you to paint. A lot of people use airbrush. Some people like to just use brushes, and some people like to do the combination of both brush and spray. And so in this particular video I'm going to show you how to do it if you didn't have an airbrush and you didn't want to all the way brush it. So we won't be using these two products till later in the video. Okay, so the first thing we got to do here is mask off our shoe. What I recommend that you paint first, in the case of this, it's black on black with black. So this is a relatively easy thing to paint. What I recommend is you paint the patent leather first, because you're going to require a lot of masking and taping. And sometimes if you tape here in this midsole and you've painted it, you might have a tendency to get that to peel off or rip off some of your paint. So the first thing we're going to do is mask off this area here, and then mask off this area here. So I've already got a shoe that's already prepped and ready to go with the masking. So basically this is what your shoe looks like when you've masked it off completely and prepped it for the Adhesive Promoter, which is this product here that you're going to use first. This is an aerosol, so you can use it outside. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be spraying it inside in just a moment. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do in order to prepare the shoe for spraying is the first product we're going to use is the Adhesion Promoter. And what we need to do is mask off the shoe completely and mask off the bottom part, because we really don't want to get any of this stuff anywhere on the shoe. It's a really sticky product, and it's meant to adhere to basically whatever you spray it on. So once you get it on there, it's going to be almost impossible to get it off. So you're going to use some masking tape to mask off your areas, and then make sure to shake your spray a lot. And I've already have a shoe that is ready to go for that process. You can see it there. And so that one's ready to go. What you're going to want to do with this product here is you're going to want to do some very, very light coats, and you're going to want to build up the coats. So for example here, it's just going to be a very light coat, and you'll see it. I'm just going to lightly coat it. So for the purpose of this video, I'm obviously doing outside, but you can do it outside and spray your shoe. So that would be one light coat, and as you're doing it, you're going to see that it's going to start to sort of matte out the patent leather on there. So I'm going to give it a few more coats, and then we're going to go on to the black step. Okay, and so I've already added 5 or 6 coats here, and I let it dry between 3 to 5 minutes in between each coat. On the final coats, I kind of expedited it a little bit using the blow dry to make sure that it was dry. Now when you first look at it, you're going to look at it and you're going to think, well, nothing happened to it. But what it did is it's a really light coat, and so you want to try to avoid rubbing your hand on it or touching it. Just know that it's there and it's going to work. So the second step now that we're going to do is we're going to sort of do a little edge, a black edge line on this, just so that when we do the melatonin spray, we just got to make sure that it gets into all this, into all the little string area that you see here. So I'm going to quickly do this for the purpose of the video. Just want to make sure that that black is everywhere. So I'm just going to go all the way around the shoe and then the bottom part, and after that I'm going to let it dry, and so we'll go on to the next step. So basically this is what the shoe looks like. I went ahead and painted the edging where the stitching is, and then sort of where it meets the midsole. I went ahead and gave it 3 coats of the Angelus Black, and then just let it dry in between the layers. And then here's where you're going to decide whether you're going to want to airbrush it. If you're going to want to airbrush it, you're going to want to use the black and the too thin. And the too thin just helps thin out the black to shoot through your airbrush. For the purpose of this video, we're going to be using the Meltonian color spray. And what this does is that it makes it really easy to sort of get that mirror image. You could also brush it, but because if you're not really good at brushes, or have a good quality brush like a Kolinsky brush, or you're just not very good at painting, I think the easiest way for most is to use the Meltonian spray or the airbrush to get that great overall finish when you use it. And so you just want to go ahead and shake up your spray. And then once you got it all shaken up, you're going to just apply a light coat. So let me just get this started. One really light coat. So that's what one really light coat looks like there. And so what you want to do is you want to go ahead and let that dry. You give it, you know, a couple minutes to dry, maybe 3 to 5, depending if it's a hot day. You could obviously put it outside and make it dry a little faster. If you're inside, just go ahead and let it dry for the 5 minutes. You don't want to quickly add another coat to it because you might get some drips. You might do some overspray where it seeps under. So just give it that light coat and let it dry. So here's the sneaker, the Jordan. I've painted it. I'm going to literally say I've given it maybe 10 or 11 light coats. And so I went around and did coat after coat. But in between each coat, I made sure to let it dry. And very important, do not touch the shoe. And by I mean that is don't try to touch it and see if it's dry or not. Because what you're going to do is you're going to, it's sort of a, if it's not dry yet, all it will leave is that thumbprint or fingerprint in the patent leather. And you won't be able to get it off and you'll just destroy the whole thing. So make sure to be patient and then just wait for it to dry. So now in this step, after that's dry and you've got all your coats, the particular customer wanted to have a shiny finish. So these are your two choices. If you have an airbrush, then I recommend really using the high gloss acrylic finisher. If you're going to just do it this way, you're just, you know, starting off and you don't have an airbrush, the crystal clear acrylic coating is fine as well. You can also brush on the Angelus if you wanted to. You just have to be very, very careful that you have a clean brush and your area is free from any lint or debris, because as soon as you get a little speckle of something on there, it's going to be hard to get off and you'll see an imperfection in the patent leather. So the purpose of this video, I'm going to be using the crystal clear Krylon to give you that high gloss finish. So I'm just going to shake this up real quick. And I always make sure that when I spray somewhere else, not directly on the shoe. A lot of times spray cans will have a tendency for it to settle and you will get a sort of a foggy effect if it's not shook all the way and you haven't sort of got that top coat out of there. So I got this shook up here. And then once again, I'm going to add really, really light coats. And then just make sure to do really fluid movement when you do it. And you want to make sure to spray all the way off the shoe. So when I spray, I start way over here and end way over here. So you don't want to start spraying here because what you're going to do is get a concentration of clear coat, or paint for that matter, even with an airbrush. You never want to start here. You always want to start before and quite a bit after. So that's my first coat there. After that, I'm going to apply, I'm going to say 3 to 4 more coats, light coats, to make sure that I've, you know, got every surface on there. And then after that, I'll peel away and so you guys can see what how it looks with the back painted. Okay, so this is what they look like after 5 or 6 coats of the clear coat. And of course, I've let it dry in between each coat. You want to make sure that even after I peel this off, you want to give it a couple days to really sit there and let all the layers dry before you, I guess, start wearing them. Just a reminder, like these shoes, all these shoes that are customs, they're really meant for walking in and, you know, sort of walking in a piece of art. You really don't want to play sports in any of these shoes once you do all this work to them. They're just not meant for that purpose. But I find that this is probably the most effective way to coat them and still get some durable wears out of them. So I'm going to quickly peel off the paper and the masking tape that I used on it here. So you guys can get an idea. And there's going to be some little parts and pieces that I'm going to need to touch up so you can see where the masking tape may have gone a little bit up onto the patent. But it's going to be very, very minimal. You can see that there. And so basically I'm just going to take my black Angelus and do little tiny touch-ups on it. So I'll go ahead and do those right now just to touch up the areas where you can sort of still see a little bit of the white pushing through there. So now, if you had a pair that was maybe in this another color, just try to be careful when you mask it off. I'm just going pretty quickly here, just because it's a video. I will go through it a little later and be more thorough about where I'm painting to make sure that it's all correct and touched off. Now on this bottom sole here, just what that's going to look like once you peel this all off. So just be careful to peel off very carefully. You want to make sure that the tape doesn't peel up any paint where you mask off. I'm just going to quickly make sure taking it off in some correct sections here. So in the case of this video, I'm going to be painting the midsole black, so I didn't have to be as careful masking off on any of the sections. So you just want to be very careful when you peel this off. So you'll see that it's got a little bit of seepage, so you have to remember that when you do it, that you're a little more careful when you do that. In my case, I'm going to be painting the midsole a color anyway, the black color, so I didn't have to be that careful when I did it. So here's a close-up of what it looks like when you spray it on. You can see there. It's pretty shiny. And you just want to make sure and let that dry all the way. Okay, so here's the first step, is we're going to take some Jetblack dye. And then what you want to do is be very, very careful with this, since you're working with a clear sole. If this black dye were to get on that clear sole, you're not going to be able to get it off. So you want to just dip very, very lightly, and you're going to just want to coat. And you can apply a couple coats of this dye. Just got to make sure to let it dry between coats. And for this top part, I'm using a 5/8 thick brush. And the brushes that I'm using are just some synthetic sables. They're just generally a more tolerant brush. And if they mess up, they're relatively inexpensive. You mess them up with a tip or whatever, you can always just toss them out and get a new batch of them. When I paint with brushes, I get that question asked a lot, what brush do I use? I use Kolinsky sables, which are a mink type hair, which they're very, very soft. But you have to have some really good brush habits when you use those, because you can't leave those in water. The second you leave those in water, they just mess up because it's a really fancy hair. And I'm just going around the top part here. When I get to the bottom part of the sole, I'm going to be using a much, much smaller brush, because I don't want to get any of these excess dye on the shoe. So I'm just using this to do the majority of my work. You can see there a little bit too much ink on this, and you can see that it runs really quick, so just have to be very careful when you do this. Because it will seep. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest and then give you an update a little bit later. So this is what it looks like after I painted the midsole with the leather dye. We're going to apply the coat of the Angelus Acrylic Leather Black now on top of that. It's very important to note that you're probably wondering, why don't I just leave it in that state that you see it there. The leather dye has sort of this purplish shimmer to it, and for the purpose of that is to keep it exposing any hairline cracks that you might get after wearing, because this foam part, whenever they color foam, they do it in the injection process, and so that makes the whole thing a certain color. So when you apply colors or paint or anything on top of it, it has a tendency not to really attach itself as best as it could. So if you dye the midsole with the black and then apply the black acrylic on top of it, it probably will give you the best finish and sort of hold up as far as durability. So right now I'm going to add the black on top of it, and I've already mixed that up. So I just added, for 1 ounce of black, I've added maybe about a dime's worth of the Angelus Duller to the acrylic. So I'm just going to quickly go through here and paint. And on camera it shows that it's shiny, but once it starts to dry out, it will go to a matte finish there. So I'm quickly just going to go all the way around, and then I will cut to wax. So this is what they look like once they've been completed. Went through all the steps, painted the patent leather, painted that midsole. So you can see here the difference. So go ahead and pitch these up here. Next up for restoration are these Stash Air Maxes, and these are a combination of fabric and leather. Remember, visit kingofsneakers.com for any of your questions and to view all of our how-to videos.